welcome to Kitchen Basics 101, where I teach you the bare bone basics as if you've never cooked a day in your life from the perspective of a mom. I get this question a ton, and I think that there are probably a wide variety of answers on the internet. I'm not going to share with you a professional opinion from a biochemist because that's not who I am. I'm going to share the opinion of a mom who's been cooking and not killing people for 25, 30 years. Really longer. So a couple of questions about the cutting boards. Let's start with the plastic cutting board. I have plastic cutting boards and you can't really see on camera, but they really get torn up easily from the knife. There's about a gajillion cuts in this cutting board. And in my opinion, you can actually see discoloration in these cracks. This is much harder to keep clean. Yes, this can go in the dishwasher, and so that gives you a sense of disinfection. But me personally, I worry more about PFE, forever chemicals, and microplastics. And I feel like I'm cutting on this. I'm clearly cutting plastic when I do, and that plastic is getting in my food, and I don't like to feed plastic to my kids. So I do not use plastic cutting boards. And you're asking like, but you have a plastic cutting board. This has just been in the kitchen for forever, but I don't use it. When it comes to picking a wood cutting board, I wanted to show you this board so that you can understand the difference between a wood cutting board and just a wood board that you buy at the kitchen store. What I mean by this is you can go to Home Goods, you can go to Target, you can go all kinds of places and find cute boards like this that look like cutting boards. And you're like, oh, it's a cutting board, and so I can cut my meat on it. Do you see all this discoloration in this board? There is a ton of discoloration. I would argue maybe even some mold from this getting wet. I would not use this cutting board to cut meat or anything else. It also has a space here where the juices could go down inside. This is clearly a decorative cutting board designed maybe for a cheese board. You could put a piece of parchment on here, put like cheese and berries and serve food. You could use it as a hot pad, which is what I'm currently using it as. It has little feet on the bottom. So if I'm serving Thanksgiving dinner, I can put the hot turkey plate on top of this in the middle of my table and protect my table. Do not use a board like this as a cutting board. Make sure when you buy a cutting board that's wood that it is designed for cutting. Favorite wood for a cutting board is bamboo. That's what this is. It's a bamboo cutting board. Yes, it still has knife marks in it that you can see, but they're not discolored. There's no food lodged in them. And more importantly, if a little bit of this gets into the food, and I know you're like, ew, but here's the reality. Anything you're cutting on, there's going to be just microparticles. I'm less concerned than my plastic cutting board. This is sealed. It is designed to be a cutting board. So it doesn't get that discoloration. It doesn't get mold. It doesn't puff up. There's no cracks in it. It's completely sealed. Really concerned, here's the great part. If you buy a real cutting board that is designed for cutting, they're dual-sided. This channel is for meat juices. You cut your turkey after it's cooked, there'll be tons of juices. This channel, or your roast beef, this channel is designed to hold it. That's a great way to tell your meat side from your non-meat side. If you are concerned, you can use this side for all your raw preparations, so fruits, vegetables, breads, and then you can use this side for raw preparations, chicken, meat, fish. Now, I would argue the reason I'm saying raw and cooked is it doesn't matter what it is if it's cooked. Cooked chicken, cooked meat, cooked beef, cooked foods, this side. Fruits, vegetables, this side. Raw, this side. So if you're overly concerned, you can always use that method. Because what you're worried about is bacteria, right? Salmonella is the #1 for chicken that people are afraid of, or listeria or things like that. Once your meat is cooked, then that's no longer a concern. So a lot of people who are like, oh, you have to wash your meat. That's one of the reasons you don't, is because rinsing your meat off is not going to kill the listeria, but cooking it is going to kill the bacteria, right? So if you're really concerned, raw on this side, cooked on this side, or raw veggies, raw fruits on this side. Again, I want to reiterate, I'm not concerned, and this is how I take care of my board. First of all, if you see major gouging, or you see that the surface is no longer good, or you see mold, or you see crack, or you see what looks like food, get a new board. These are not, they don't last forever. There's a lifespan on your board, okay? The second thing is cleaning. Dish soap has antibacterial properties, so I use really hot water dish soap, and every once in a while, I will do this with a dish soap vinegar combination. I've shown that on my Household Basics 101, where I make a vinegar dish soap solution, and I will use that maybe like once a month just to give this an extra sanitization if I've been cooking a lot. This board happens to be Pampered Chef. I know people are going to ask. I am not a Pampered Chef representative. I do like a lot of Pampered Chef products. Not all products, but some of them, like this cutting board. A nice solution of vinegar that will kill mold. Vinegar is really great at killing mold, and it's really great at sanitizing. And then you're going to use a dish soap like Dawn or some other type of dish soap that's going to get your antibacterial properties. The most concerning thing you should be worried about, especially is really cross-contamination, right? You don't want to cut raw chicken on this board and then cut fresh strawberries, right? Because you're not going to cook the strawberries. And so now the strawberries have chicken guts on them, and you're going to get sick, and you're going to get everyone sick. So the real issue is not so much whether or not you're using this board, it's that you're using it properly so there's no cross-contamination. If I cut a raw chicken breast on here, then no raw veggies, no raw fruits, none of that until this has been properly sanitized. Does that make sense? So it's not really so much... I know people are really crazy about the germs. I mean, I can get this as germy as I want as long as I don't cut something I'm going to eat that's not going to be cooked on this. But I could certainly cut beef, pork, chicken, everything that's going to be cooked for the night. Or if I'm prepping a bunch of raw meat, I could cut it all on here. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, the meat bacteria you might get on the chicken bacteria, but all that's going to get cooked. And so you're going to be safe. What you really, really, really need to be careful of, and the number one way that you're going to get poisoned is really going to be raw preparations. If you're eating raw fish or you're eating raw vegetables that have been cross-contaminated with some type of salmonella, that's really where you get in trouble. So, and if you don't cook your meats to the proper temperature. So you want to make sure. Anyways, I hope that helps. I hope that answers your questions. If you have more questions, please feel free to leave it in the comments. I know there's going to be a lot of people on here who are going to be like, no wood cutting boards. And that's okay. That's absolutely no hate to the commenter. If you are not comfortable using a wood cutting board, don't. I've been using a wood cutting board for 25 years. I'm not going to stop. So that's just me. I'm a mom. That's my perspective. And, feel free to chime in with your thoughts in the comments.